Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I would like to welcome our newest members, George Harrington and Mike D'Onofrio, to the board. It's a pleasure to have you here. My seat's nice and warmed up for you, so come July, it'll be all good to go. Welcome. Okay, I would like to start off with a moment of silence, please, for Lisa M. Obrist, a graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District, please. Thank you. Okay. First up is good news.
We like it.
We'd like to invite up the Special Olympics Committee, please.
What did I do? No, I just knocked myself off.
So good evening, everyone. We wanted to acknowledge the Special Olympics Committee for such an amazing event. And it was my first opportunity to participate, actually, in a Special Olympics. And I got to spend the day out there, and I had a ball. And when I got there, Fina was like, just sit down, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, I want to do stuff. And so I ended up hanging out with other board members, Sandy and Bob, and we were in charge of filling out the,
Ribbons.
The ribbons, correct. But it was a great time. We got to meet great people, great students, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time and commitment. It's a huge event. I was told that this year, I think you guys doubled. It was like up to 700 students, and in the past, it had been probably around 400. And so just an amazing experience, and that Syracuse City Schools called to see if they could participate. So I know there might be some conversation about growing it even bigger, but what a phenomenal day, and we just wanted to acknowledge your commitment. And so, Fina, thank you so much. Kim, thank you so much. Thank you. Lindsay, thank you. Anne, Becky, and Kelly. I know next year to make sure that I don't come in pumps and a dress, but that I am in sweats. So thank you again so much.
Thanks again, everyone. Okay. First up, CNS BPT, please.
Good evening. For those who don't know, I'm Melissa Julian, the executive principal at CNS High School. This is Greg Broughton, our BPT chair. Is that better? Okay. Thank you all for coming tonight for our presentation.
All of you clumped all the way in the back in that back corner. If everybody could shift in just a little bit, or maybe swing around the back and clump on that side as well, so that we're at least evenly clumped.
Last night for pay.
We're here to just go over our BPT review from this school year, that our goals, what we did with our goals and where we've gone from the beginning to where we've been this year, and what we're looking forward to in the future.
Where the BPT has been. As you know, through this slide here, basically, this is a year of transition for the high school. We finally landed on our new executive principal here today. And we are moving forward along with BPT. This was the Department Chairpersons Act as BPT. Also the first year plan for the entire building. Departments going their own direction. Developed a building-wide goal, which was to improve reading comprehension and interpretation of text, which would then result in an increase in student achievement and passing rate. A building-wide learning objective was also created so that one objective among all the departments, which was the students will interpret informational text and use text-based questions while enhancing their writing. From there, each department developed strategies to implement. And at this time, if I could direct your attention to the chart in front of you.
While we're working on getting that up, what you will see in front of you is the chart that has been created. Each department has been outlined with the current strategies for the school year. You will notice that while we went from one to one specific building goal and learning objective, the department still kept various strategies. And we're going to talk about how successful that's been and what we're looking at doing a little bit differently in the future. But each department then, what we did is we took out their strategies and then we looked at the outcome of where we're going. With the high school level, as you know, we have our Regents exams in June, so a lot of these strategies will be, we're waiting for those results from the June Regents exam to really see how we've met that goal. So a lot of these are still in progress.
Looking through with the art group, just to pull on a few, such as the utilize the career readiness anchor standards across the top line there, for writing found in the Common Core standards when creating artist statements and critique reflection pieces. They're again looking at the passing rates within the courses. Another group of the outcome they're also looking at is the AP Studio Art portfolio results. Also looking at final exam results in June, along with the final exam results for the last bullet there, utilizing the College of Career Readiness anchor for reading when researching artists and artist movements and historical backdrop within their classrooms. Within business, basically they went through and they had some overriding strategies across all classes, but there was one in particular for a certain financial class, and that one we have a result of 95% scored 90 or above on the analysis exam, with 100% scoring 80 or above, which I neglected to put in there. In the Career Center, they had workshops offered through the Career Center. 42 students participated in these workshops. And within the integration through business classes, they had 22 classes, which represented 477 students visit the Career Center. The Counseling Department is looking at ways to integrate technology and communication with parents. They also had groups to discuss juniors' needs from parent-student perspective. And they also are working on potentially opening up a Facebook page to explore information dissemination through Facebook. And all of that stuff is also in progress. On the second page, we have the Health Department, which they worked on reading assigned health-related articles within their classwork assignments, their homework assignments, and also on topic tests. Those assignments have been graded, and the data is going to be collected. Also, use of health-related data to make inference and identify facts, which will also be both in their unit exams, and there's also mini articles included in their final exams. English has been increasing the use of informational text within the classroom. They are having an ongoing discussion, and they're going to do a full implementation within the 2012-2013 year. Also answering text-based questions within the classroom, and we'll be looking at the Regents results again in June, along with a combination of the January results. Family and consumer science, using formative and summative assessments throughout the course of the year in order to gauge critical thinking and reading for understanding levels of the students, and that data will be collected from final exams. Within LOTE, they had some common strategies within classrooms. Again, looking at both the math and the ELA Regents exams, along with their own local finals throughout the LOTE classrooms. The library information program worked with both classrooms in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and they were able to give 100% of the 10th grade students instruction on guided practice on how to paraphrase informational text. Also, the 10th and 12th grade students also learned strategies to figure also local and evaluate informational resources. On to the third page. The math department also used some classroom strategies such as underlining, highlighting keywords, flowcharts, tables, etc. And again, they're going to be looking at their math exam results in June. The music department, we also found that within this process we had some of our non-core departments had some difficulty with coming up with the with outcomes, and I'm not pausing on music for any particular reason. It just came to my head as I'm going through. But in theirs, they were able to delve through our school building-wide issue, along with come up with sight reading skills, with the sight reading skills and able to enhance music comprehension going through within the classrooms. And then through written assessments and class discussion, the students gain a greater understanding of the techniques necessary to produce a quality performance and set benchmarks to produce their own higher quality performances in concerts. And again, that is also in progress. Physical education took the literary piece and they ran with it, and they created a new writing template for their homebound and their medical students so that they can work through there. And they're compiling their results also for June with the school year not yet out, or the school year not yet finished. Within science, I'm a science teacher. We utilized math and text-based questions with our unit exams and also our midterm. We also developed a pre- and post-test for reading comprehension where the students read an article and then answered increasing level of questions based on that. And those results are also forthcoming. On to the last page. Special education. They also worked within a classroom setting to reword and highlight keywords and questions, and they have what's called a grade, which is the group reading assessment. They are getting the results of that from within their classroom, and they also had teacher-observed evidence within the classroom because they work hands-on with their students in such a small group. Within social studies, there is a litany of strategies there, heading down. Again, reading and writing workshop in the second bullet for the individual classes. Focus of these workshops are to interpret the state assessment questions and evaluate primary sources, because a lot of the Regents exams within social studies do have that writing component in there. So within there, they're able to look at critical lenses and DBQs and such. And their level of success will be garnered based on the U.S. History and Global Regents exam results also in June.
For us, the big piece this year was the fact that we transitioned from 16 department goals and 16 individual learning objectives to one main building goal, and then we were able to branch from that. One of the things that we've also learned this year is that it's problematic for us to try multiple strategies with a building our size, and for us to then try to compile all those strategies and put them into a format to show results on the June Regents exams. So we are in conversation with the BBT about possibly honing that down to 2 or 3 strategies across the areas and to see the results that way as well. We would like to say, though, that throughout this process, the BPT members in the building have been wonderful about bouncing ideas off of each other, working with their departments to gain the data that we need, and then working collaboratively to transition to a unified goal format. This was a new approach for everybody, and it took a lot of months just to even figure out what a unified goal would look like and how we could best represent that as a building. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that.
Our future goals, we continue to move forward with this process. We want to continue looking at one goal. And actually what we would like to do is continue to use this goal next year and build from there, looking at refining our strategies and using those to impact the learning that's going on in the classrooms. And then we also wish to continue to increase our student performance across all areas. And so we've talked about using a unified writing process. We've talked about looking at specific informational texts across all grade levels. And so I think that it's developed some really great conversation for CNS, and it's a learning process. So we're going to go through it together and hopefully come out far better in the end. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Anna.
Not only a question, but a comment. I think to use the same goal next year makes a lot of sense, because this was your year to learn the process, and it'll give you the opportunity to see if the strategies that you selected this year were successful, but then to possibly change strategies, add strategies, and really, I commend you. It's in a building your size, it's a monumental task. Thank you.
I want to comment basically on the same type of thing that Sandy said. For a building with 2,200 students, many here tonight, to work on one objective with all your departments, I mean, that's amazing that phys ed, LOT, math, science, all worked on the same goal, target, and you should be congratulated. For Greg, just an idea of what a building chairperson does. How many hours do you put? You're a science teacher.
Yes.
Put you on the spot. And you prepare your lessons every day. But how many hours would you say during this year you put forth on just a ball figure?
Ballpark at least 80 to 100 hours going through the
This is
time.
what our teachers do. They spend way beyond the hours to make sure that our program is second to none. And you
Yes.
should be congratulated for that.
Well, thank you. Any other
Anybody
questions?
else?
Great. Thank you very
guys.
much.
Thank you very much. NS?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
As you know, having been here for many, many years, I'm Connie Touros, the building principal at the junior high school. Tonight I brought an entourage with me who are going to present. To my left is Tiffany Phelps. Oh, actually, Tiffany Phelps is over to my far left, and Kelly Moen, their co-BPT co-chair. Co-BPT co-chair, that's kind of a repeat. And then behind us are Reggie White and Chuck Yanko, assistant principals. So we are going to present what we've done this year with BPT and hopefully where we're going, even though that's kind of as an unknown, as we will explain as we go through this. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the ladies.
Hello. I think a lot of what you're going to hear is probably very similar to what CNS just presented to you, which kind of shows how our schools are becoming more similar and helping our students and finding out what they need and the best way to teach them. What we are going to start with is just a little refresher from the fall. If you look up here, the gap areas, what we did is we compared our ELA scores, our 8th grade scores, to the BOCES region and then the whole region in general to find out what skills are our students lacking. And so we took those and we started with those and said, if this is what our students need, then this is what we need to focus on. So we've taken our gap areas and what we've done is we've decided to do building-wide goals. So instead of doing, again, the department goals, we've taken reading, writing, and math, and we've decided to focus on 3 reading skills, 1 writing skill, and 2 math skills. You're going to see similarities again with the CNS presentation. The informational text, comprehending it, identifying multiple points of view, making inferences, that's a big one we've been working on this year. And then being able to cite textual evidence and make decisions and write from those based on what students are reading in the actual text. Here is just an example of what one of our goals forms looks like. This is one of the ELA goals. Each department has the same thing, so the goal is going to be the same, but again, how each department goes about teaching the skills might differ. The writing goals, being able to write both expository and analytical pieces of writing. And again, how they're used in the classroom might be different. I teach German, so what I do in my German classroom is going to vary from a social studies teacher or a science teacher, but the idea is that we're all teaching skills to have students correctly write both expository and analytical pieces. Again, another example of the writing goals form. And then we have some data here for you. This is 9th grade English benchmarks. And if you look, just under 700 9th graders took our benchmarks for the year in their English classes. And if you look at the advanced and the proficient, the columns on the right of those are the number of students that would fit into that category. So if you add those on top of each other, you have right around or over 600 of our students are in the advanced or proficient area on those benchmarks. The basic and the not proficient, we're happy to show, are much lower. And then this is just another little pie chart so you can see the red and the maroon there and the blue. Those are our students that are doing well and that are scoring in the range that we would like them to be on the ELA exams.
These slides may not be in your presentation. I think we added them after. Thank you. I thought senility had set in.
That's why I don't follow along on this anymore.
Sorry about that.
It's normally not the same.
This is the 8th grade ELA, and just to show you what we have done with our data now to try and, again, find these gap areas. So if you look at this, we look at each question. Each question is tied to a skill or multiple skills perhaps. And then as you can see, question 5 there, we would take that and look at, okay, 5 is a weak area. What is the area? How can we go about preparing our students so that they have that skill? So it's just a little bit of how we use the data.
Okay, we also have one math goal that we use throughout the building, and that's that students will develop problem-solving skills on higher-level thinking skills, and they'll be able to analyze a problem and then solve it. So this is another example of how we have our building-wide goal and the different ways, there's strategies and outcomes that come from those. And math is, yes, they utilize performance pathways, which is nice because we have data available at our fingertips. As soon as the tests are scanned, we can pull up all sorts of information. So the 8th grade math classes took 8 benchmarks or unit tests, common unit tests this year. So this is the results from the first 2 exams. And the same, another pie chart just showing 75% are proficient in units 3 and 4. 5 and 6, we had 76 proficient. In the last benchmark we took, we had 77 proficient. Obviously, we want to get those numbers up, but at least the data is available, and we can, just like that ELA chart, we can break it up by question
and find out their weak areas, and we do go back and reteach and retest. But this is just the data on the initial benchmark exams. Integrated algebra, they had 3 benchmarks this year, and then the Regents exam is coming up. So the first one, they were 74% proficient. Benchmark 2, a lot more challenging materials, 61% proficient. Geometry, which is our honors accelerated students, we had 94% proficient. That's some data that we have. As a building and a BPT, we are continuing using Are You Blooming and how we write our curriculum, test questions, and moving more into higher level thinking. And we're also continuing the use of the instruction for all. Most of the departments, if not all of the departments, when they meet on a monthly basis, do have a best practice sharing where we share research-based activities and successful activities that have worked to implement our curriculums. The Common Core, the shifts from the Common Core with the building goals, with the SLOs, with everything that's coming down the pike. Several members from each department attended a 5-day workshop on unwrapping the Common Core and the instructional shifts. Those people took the information back to department meetings and shared them there. Curriculums are constantly reviewed. We want to ensure that there's rigorous and relevant framework in place and that we're reaching all the gap areas. And back to Common Core, we are going to have some summer hours available where people from the 5-day workshop will be running workshops for others over the summer. Just like CNS, we are continuing with our goals. We are going to most likely have those same reading, writing, and math goals for next year and continuing on with the strategies. We don't have any data, obviously, yet from the state exams, but the analysis dates have been set for the ELA and the math. And we will analyze those, and of course that'll drive our instruction. And I mentioned that Are You Blooming instruction for all.
As you know, our building went through the JIT process this year, which is going to be tied into our SEP plan. We do not have the information yet from the JIT. We were originally told May, and we haven't seen anything yet. We're hoping this summer. Once we do receive it, we have 30 days to use that to create our new SEP plan. So that'll be our goal as soon as we get the JIT review back. We do have some anticipated things, some ideas of what we are probably going to be implementing over the next few years in the building. One of them is the positive behavior intervention system, which we would like to do in collaboration with the middle schools, possibly the elementary schools, and possibly CNS. One of the things that's challenging about the junior high is that we have a 50% turnover rate every year. So every year, half of our building is new and half of our building is leaving. So the idea of getting a positive behavior system in really needs to stretch over multiple schools so that we're not teaching every single year the new strategies and the new expectations and all of that, that it's a continuation of what has happened in their earlier education.
Can you please explain to the audience that's out there what a JIT and a SEP is? The JIT is the Joint Intervention Team, and basically what has happened is that the junior high has been on the school in need of improvement list for so many years now that BOCES and the state sent in for 4 days a group of people. Some of them came right from their district office, some from BOCES and some from the state, like I said, to do they had a rubric. They spent time interviewing students, interviewing teachers, parents. We had boxes and boxes of information to prepare for them on how we run the building, how teachers plan, how we grade, what our curriculums look like. And they spent all 4 days looking at everything. And then Karen Markoff, who was in charge of the whole thing, she left us to put a report together, which was supposed to go through multiple levels of state. And then basically the state will say to us, this is what we think you need to do. And it's basically a 3-year plan. And then the SEP is the Comprehension Education Plan, which is
get, it's written as a result, but it's a plan for what our future is going to look like at the junior high.
Thank you.
When we get those documents from the JIT, what we'll do is have that 30-day process, and that SEP is what's so critical because it's going to drive what we're going to do for the next 3 years. That's why I think we all have bought into the idea of setting goals and what we need to do, but really what comes out of that JIT and then into the SEP is really going to figure into driving our goals for the next 3 years. Karen had given us a little preview before she left of what we could expect, but we haven't seen the report. But based on what she said to us and based on what we've talked about, we have a pretty good idea of some of the things that we are going to probably need put into place in the fall as well as over the next 3 years. I'll speak to the next one up there because the reorganization of the BPT is something that we need to really talk about because BPT is really that school improvement team. And we really have two bodies that govern us, our BPT, but also our department chairs meet as a separate group. And when CNS went to the model of the BPT being the department chairs, we toyed with that idea, but I think we as a building had one of the original BPTs when we went way back in the early 90s, 80s when we went to shared decision making. So it's a hard change to just release that BPT and move to a department chair model. So I think we are going to have some real serious discussions about whether we're going to kind of meld that department chair with that existing BPT to make a quality school improvement team that's really going to drive the improvement of instruction at the junior high school. So that's something that we're going to have to do. And that's one of the things Karen had said to us. She said we really need to look at our school improvement team and how it helps us to drive instruction in the building. Also, one of the things that she added as the next thing on there, the common expectations for quality planning. One of the things that we need to look at is how teachers plan and how that's implemented in the classroom. And it's not just our building that shows inconsistencies. This is an inconsistency that's probably been around through the whole district that we've talked about for years, that we've talked about addressing. Well, now the JIT is here with our SEP, and it's probably going to say to us, you need to have something in place that shows you are consistently planning. So we expect that to happen. And the last thing up there, the piling of the SIS gradebook, we jumped on board that train when Donna Marie asked for a building that wanted to get into the new SIS gradebook. We'll be one of the buildings that will pilot it probably around January of next year. And we're very excited about that because we have a lot of people right now that are on the current My Gradebook and will make that transition. We think by doing that, that's going to help us with, again, data analysis, which will improve instruction, which is what we're all here to do. So there's a lot of things tied in with this slide that I think are going to help the junior high school and are really going to help us focus on what we need to do. Like Kelly and Tiffany said, today we gave the state science exam. We got Regents coming up. We're in the middle of final exams. So there's a whole lot of data that we still need to get together to find out how we've done this year that we're not going to even be able to analyze probably until this summer. So we're looking forward to doing that.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
I have a few comments, and some of my colleagues may not agree with some of them, but we live in a democracy. You have a building of 1,300 to 1,400 students. 1,426. And, you know, we look at the school of improvement, but when I come to the honor roll, you have over 600 kids that have, what, 85 to 89. That is, every time I go there, it's wonderful. I feel that your school has, I went to a talent show. Now, unfortunately, I left early because I got a little loud, but you got to have the #1 tech department in our school district. And again, we talk about time and energy. They do that. I said the honor breakfasts, your music programs. I feel that, you know, where we're going in this state is that it's going to end up that every school, with their criteria, we're going to end up with many schools on the school improvement. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to your school because we're talking about a small, am I correct, small minority group that is in your school. And I don't think it's fair to your entire building and the amount of time that they put in. So I wanted to give my 2 cents in. You do a great job over there. You need to pat yourselves on the back, and any staff here from the junior high. You do a great job.
Any comments, questions? Sandy?
New York State just got a waiver. Yes. How will, you don't know yet? No, it's a school focus, a focus school, I believe.
So we're going to be seeing some things. There's a document that's about this thing. We're sorting through that, but I think we are. We're going to be called something else, but that's what Bob said. I agree. I've been in that building a long, long time. The staff, we've been together. We really are a family over there. But I think we know that even though I think as a whole we do very well, we have some subgroups of students that we need to do a better job with. Right. And I think as we do a better job with those students, we will see improvement for the whole building, because those strategies that are going to work to improve their grades are going to help everybody. And I think everyone realizes that. I think what's frustrating is each year when we make some steps forward, the rules get changed and we fall backwards a little bit. Mm-hmm. So then we have to, we change the cut points, we change the tests, we change this, we change that. So I think if we finally settle in on what we are testing and what we are doing and have a goal where we're working, I think we're going to be more successful. But again, this isn't, we get students when they're in 8th grade. Many of those students that are not doing well, we also need to look at what's going on grades 3 through 7 and continue to build on their skills so that they also increase their results. And by the time they get to us, maybe everybody will be a level 3 and 4 and we won't have this discussion anymore. Who knows? It'd be a nice thing.
Well, I don't think the configuration helps you at all either.
No,
It
no.
really
But, Tony, when we became a junior high in 1983, and Skip Davis retired tonight, we've counted there are now 3 of us left from 1983 with Skip gone. There were 4. And we talked about that. When we were created in 1983, it was a temporary fix.
We were supposed to be a maximum of 5 years.
We were supposed to be done in 5 years, and then we had thought by 1990, because we did the big $99 million thing, we were going to change to that to 6 through 8. That was the big plan. Mm-hmm. And here we are, 25 years, 30 years later, we're still here. So change will come eventually, but again, we were a temporary fix. But for a temporary fix, we have created a staff that wants to be with students that are 13, 14, and 15-year-olds. Yes, we sometimes have a few 16-year-olds, maybe one 17, maybe a few 12-year-olds. They like us so much they stay extra years. But a staff that is built on enjoying working with those students of that age group and trying to get as much success as possible. And I commend that staff every day, because I know we have parents that say, take them for 7.5 hours. We couldn't take them. And they come in every day, and we try to do our very best, but we will continue to do better. That's all we can do. And we had a wonderful dance Friday night, too, Mr. Crabtree.
Thank you.
Just as a point, an
Bobby, everybody dressed accordingly.
What?
Everybody
there.
Guys, hold on 1 second.
As
Stop.
FYI for you all, a letter did come in. I received a letter today from actually Karen indicating that she had forwarded the document off to the state, as she put it, weeks ago, and that she is still waiting for final approval from SED. The question is, given the ESEA waiver, will they kind of put that document aside and send us something new that gives us new direction, or are they attempting to merge two? So we do have a call, or I have a call into SED to at least try and get a timeline for where they think they are now that the waiver is out, and what does that mean for the process.
Thank you. Smith Road.
Now we go to elementary.
They came last week.
Doing a great job there, Tony.
Okay, thank you for your patience while we have enough chairs for everybody. I brought a lot of friends with us today. First of all, my name's Jeanette Clark. I'm the principal at Smith Road Elementary School. We have representation from most of our grade levels. Lindsay Maloney is our BPT chairperson who put together the slide presentation, and I'm very thankful for that. We have a kindergarten representation with Chris Norton. We have first grade, Rosemary Farfalia. Second grade couldn't be with us tonight, but that's okay. Third grade, we have Karen DeSpirito. And fourth grade, we have Teresa Capolino. So thank you for coming with me. So before we get started, I just want you all to know that we are very happy at Smith Road to be finished with our construction project that lasted for 2 full years.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah is right. So we do have a brand new building. We do have new beginnings in several areas in our building. And we do have some new means of collaboration and communication within the building as well. So we had a very good kickoff to our presentation from Connie and her crew. I appreciate that because while we look at the ELA and math and science assessments at 3rd and 4th grade as a culmination of our program, it's really just the beginning of that assessment program because these kids go through the assessments from 3rd through 8th grade, and then they start the Regents exam assessments. So this is really just a beginning, while for us it seems like the ending the assessments do. If you take a look at this profile, obviously you can see the 11-12 year is not filled in yet because we've just completed the exams. We finished the Science 4 today. So we don't have the assessment results yet for this year, but I do want to just highlight, this goes back to the beginning of this year, starting our goals for this year. If you take a look at the ELA 3 from 2009-2010 and take a look at the ELA 4 from 2010-2011, that's the same cohort of students. So you can see the passing proficiency is 3 and 4 on a score of 1 through 4 rubric. So if you take a look at that, you can see that our numbers stayed pretty consistent from one year to the next with that cohort of students. So for this year, we set our goals rather realistically, and we've, over the next several years, set goals for incremental increases in the scores. For this year, we've set our goal at 68 proficiency rate, 68% of our students reaching proficiency rate at ELA 3 and Math 3. And at ELA 4, we've set our goal at 71 for ELA 4 and 70% for Math 4. So the question then becomes, well, why wouldn't we set it as 100%? Don't we care about those other 30% of our students? And realistically, of course we care about the students. Of course we do. But first of all, our goals have to be strategic, measurable, and attainable so that we can set strategic, measurable, attainable goals for the following year as well. So while we set those goals at those percentages, we do expect to increase over several years' time. So before we even get to the ELA and math and science at grades 3 and 4, we have many, 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 many measures of student successes over the years. So before I ramble on too much more, I would like to turn it over to each grade level team just so they can tell you a little bit about what do some of the assessments look like at each grade level before we get to our culminating exams being the 3rd and 4th grade state assessments. So I will turn it over just for a few minutes to Chris Norton for kindergarten. We have 3 sections of kindergarten, 3 teachers actually. 2 of our other kindergarten teachers teach half-day sections, and Chris Norton has a full-day blended kindergarten section. Microphone, we can switch it over.
All right. Our expectations for kindergarten are that the students, by the end of the school year, will be able to identify the 26 upper and lowercase letters of the alphabet and also their letter sounds. And that is measured by baseline assessments that was given in September, and benchmark assessments were given. In September, we also had a literacy night for kindergarten parents in the fall, and the students were targeted, the ones that needed help with the early literacy volunteer group. The kindergarten students are also expected to be able to read their 40 high-frequency words, sight words, and write 5 CVC words, which is consonant, vowel, consonant, like hat, cat, mop. We are presently administering the June benchmark tests, and we also met with Donna Marie Norton, and we plan to work with her in the summer. And for the math, the kindergarten students are expected to be able to identify and write the numbers 0 through 20, count rope to 100, and be able to identify and describe the basic shapes: circle, square, triangle, rectangle. We use a report card assessments that have been given and recorded, and that's how the parents are aware of their progress when they get their report cards home. And we are in the process of now administering the final assessments for each of these goals.
Do you want to tell them about that? Well, the next.
We thought that I did find out why I think it's important. Students, and this is what they.
For first grade?
Okay, for first grade, 80% of the students will score 80% or better on the district-wide Book 4 Pearson Scott Forsman test, and 77% of all students reach that goal. I would like to note that we also separated the students who receive AIS services and the students who have an IEP, because we do have 2 of our 4 classrooms that have a blended program. And when we exclude the students who have an IEP, that would either be for learning disability or speech, 77% of the students reach the goal. And when we exclude the AIS students and the IEP students together, 100% of our students did meet the goal. For the writing, we expect 85% of our students to increase at least 1 level from the fall to the spring writing assessment. And our students can be in 4 different categories for writing: emerging, developing, capable, and experienced. And we do 3 different writing assessments during the school year, 1 in October, 1 in January, and 1 in April. And of all of our students, 98% reached their goal in going from 1 level to another, and some even increased 2 levels during the school year. For their reading abilities, we use the Fontes and Pinnell benchmark testing. We do 1 on every student in October, and then 1 again. We actually, some did it at the end of May, and some are just doing it this week. And we're expecting at least 85% of all of our students to increase at least 5 levels. And 2 of the first grade classes are finished with their testing, and of the 45 students that we've looked at, 43 of them have gone up at least 5 levels. And 1 of those classes is inclusion. So we'll have the rest of the data by the end of this week. For our math, we expect 85% of our students to score 80% or higher on the end of the year Trailblazers assessment. We are in the midst of administering that right now. We actually developed a midterm based on the Trailblazers format, and also a 3rd marking period test just so that they would get used to the format. And we've been giving math facts tests since January, and we also do something from the Trailblazers program called DPPs, which is daily practice problems, and that's just a spiral effect where they're working on the same strategies and the same concepts throughout the year. And most of our students scored at least 80% or higher on the midterm and the third quarter test. And as I said, we're in the midst of administering the final exam right now.
Okay, so while Rosemary was talking a little bit about each student increasing 5 levels in their reading, in second grade, if you look at the second box down in second grade, the goal was to have 85% of our students increase. But we termed it a little bit differently in second grade because their rate of growth is so different at this stage and age of their reading development. The goal at second grade was to have 100% of the students increase at the same rate or higher than they did from kindergarten and first grade. So if a student increased 5 levels in first grade, the hope is they would continue to increase 5 levels in second grade. And same, if they increased 8 levels of reading in first grade, to increase 8 levels of reading in second grade to continue their rate of growth. And 100% of our students at this time, based on the Fountas and Pinnell assessment, have maintained or exceeded their rate of growth by the time they got to second grade. The other goal was 80% of the students would meet or exceed the proficiency level of the benchmark, the unit benchmark. At this time, 68% of the students have met the proficiency rate, but once again, if we exclude those students who have different services, all students took the assessment, but we have students who have different services in support of their needs, and at that rate, 80% of the students then met the goal. So skipping to math, right now they are still in the process of assessing the final benchmarks and the final assessments, so I'm not going to go into those percentages because we're still analyzing those and giving those assessments right now. Okay? For third grade, Karen DeSpirito is here.
Hi, Sue Garrett and myself teach blended third, and Walt Mueller and Jennifer Condor teach the other 2 sections, and they take the bulk of the AIS and resource students and those students receiving any of their services. For our ELA, we based our goal on Reading Street, our series, and we were focusing on nonfiction information, that the children could focus more on nonfiction information, that we said 75% of the students will score 70% or higher on one of our selection tests that are given every week, and it's called Volcanoes, and they love it. And 74% scored 70% or higher on that out of all the third grades. That includes all of the children, IEP students, AIS, everyone. Our second goal for ELA was 75% of students will score 65 or higher on the Reading Street Unit 2 benchmark, which is given in December. That's a much more difficult and comprehensive test, but 75% of the students did score 65 or higher, which was, we were happy to see that. The next goal, also end of the year test too, 75% of students will score 60% or higher. Again, that is a very lengthy, very comprehensive test, and we're giving that this week, so we don't have results yet on that. Next goal will be 75% of students will score 3 or 4 in the New York State assessments, and of course we don't have the results yet. And for our writing, students will maintain or improve on beginning, middle, end of your writing assessments based on our look back and writes, which are ELA, New York State ELA formatted based on nonfiction information, again, focusing the children more on how to write in response to a nonfiction piece. And those were penguin, chicken, volcanoes, and Statue of Liberty, all stories they love. So, and that right now, the last writing piece we're giving now with the end of the year test, we are looking at students that are developing and improving their writing based on the rubric that we use for these writing pieces. It's the same rubric for all three. So we base a final percentage, though, cannot be assessed right at this time because we're still, again, analyzing that. In math, we use the district benchmark for Trailblazers. 75% of students will score 60% or higher on this district benchmark, which is given in December. And 65% did score 60% or higher. Again, this is all of the students in third grade. And we're also looking at how are they going to do on the state math test. 75%, we hope, will score 3 or 4 on the New York State math test. And we're still waiting for the results for that. So that's grade 3.
The bottom one, the bottom one there from Kevin. When I interviewed him and I asked him this question, when I asked him this question, he looked at me like I was crazy. He looked at me and said, like, to get smart, what else do you think? And without third grade, I wouldn't be that smart. So it was pretty funny.
I thought it was cute that they wanted to learn cursive when most kids today don't even write.
I know. They get excited.
They love it. They love it.
I'm in the hot seat, I guess. For fourth grade, I just want to start off by saying I think that if you know any child in fourth grade, you should give them a hug because they have been doing state tests from April just about every week, every day for 3 days, and then the next week for 3 days. And then we did the science performance test, and then they just did the science written test today, and then we do a field test on Wednesday. So hug them. We started off with our Scott Forsman Reading Street, and we came up with our target scores based on that reading program. So with the baseline assessment we give in September, they come in, and that's the first week of school, we do their assessment. 67% of our students, and that includes everyone, scored 70% or higher on the baseline assessment. In October, we gave the Unit 2, no, I'm sorry. In November, we did the Unit 2 benchmark assessment, which is a selection assessment, and 88% of our students scored 70% or higher. Then we have our end-of-the-year benchmark, which is going to be given, bless their little hearts, next week. And we'll see how that goes. We also have the beginning and the middle of the year writing assessments. We do 3 assessments. We have completed the beginning and the middle of the year assessments. They also need to do the end of the year writing assessment. That's also going to be next week. So 83% of our children either maintained or improved their writing skills from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. And then we'll look at from the middle of the year to the end of the year and see how they did with that. And then in November, we did the district benchmark test, and 68% of our students, 68 students scored 75% or higher. So 68 students are 75% of our students that scored 60% or higher. That's very confusing. What it means is 75% of the kids got 60% or higher on that test. So pretty much in a nutshell, that's fourth grade, and we'll see how they do in the summer with the fourth grade testing.
A lot of testing.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a little book called Testing Miss Malarkey from the Miss Malarkey.
We read that just before we start the ELA test. We go through Testing Miss Malarkey's.
That used to be something that I would carry around with me.
So then we have all this assessment, and then you say, well, when do we have time to teach, and what do we teach, and how do we pick out what to teach from all these assessments? So we have to keep in mind that, while this is, again, these are culminating assessments for us, this is just the beginning of their school career, and they have a long, long way to go. So we need to instill some study skills and some foundations and some reading skills, real solid foundation for them to go on so that the next schools can meet their goals as well, because these are all our kids. So we have to keep in mind the focus of individual students. We have many things. Okay, so once we have all these assessment results, then what? What else goes on? What do we do with the results? And I wanted to highlight 3 of our specific programs that we have pretty solidly in place at Smith Road for our students. One is, I'm going to go to the next slide, they're all highlighted here, 2 by pictures, 1 by a graph. One is we have an ELA tutoring program. This is a program that comes from our Title I's fund. That's how it's funded. But we use it in tutoring before the ELA assessment. So we've selected students by their previous year's test scores, by current district baseline assessments, and then by teacher recommendations, which kids will benefit solidly from this program. And then we taught skills in a 10-week program, 3 sessions a week, so it was a total of 30 tutoring sessions before school starts. The parents brought the kids in, and we focused on comprehension target areas, vocabulary, writing, listening, and the materials we used were previous ELA assessments, supplemental materials, and practice books. We used comprehensive assessments from reading skills, and we also used the series that we have in place, the Scott Forsman supplementary materials. So that was the tutoring session. We serviced 24 students, and our goal is to have those 24 students meet the proficiency rate. So time will tell when we start to analyze that data after they come back. That was the tutoring program. We also have in place the ELVs, we call them. They're the early literacy volunteers. They're a group of parents who are committed to seeing our students do well. And we start in kindergarten. We have 19 students on our radar right now that visit our ELVs. We have 7 parent volunteers, and they target all ELA and some math recognition, number recognition skills. I also, just for the record, want to do some Smith Road by the numbers, because these are some interesting stats. We do have our AIS program that's also solidly in place, and we service a lot of kids. We have 2 seriously at-risk students in kindergarten, not just in the ELVs, but in the AIS program. We are servicing 23 students at first grade, 25 students at second grade, 14 students at third grade, math and or ELA, some receiving both, and 57 students, based on previous year's test scores, are being serviced in the AIS department at 4th grade alone. The numbers are staggering, so you can see that we do have a lot of work on our hands. I also want you to notice one more number that's a reality for us.
Excuse me, folks in the background, excuse me. The more little side conversations, it becomes harder and harder for us to hear her. So if we could just stop the side conversations just until she's finished with her presentation, I would greatly appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank
We're done. I promised my own staff I wouldn't talk for too long, too. They get tired of hearing me. But I do want to say our blended programs are very strong. We have very, very strong teachers servicing kids with a huge range of needs. And 50 of our students at Smith Road are students who would otherwise go to different schools but get bused to our school for the blended program and to meet their specific needs. So our individual student goals are extremely important. So that's what we do with all these test scores and all the ratings that you see and the percentages and the numbers. There are real people and real children and real faces behind these numbers. So that's important for us all to know. So thank you to my team for coming with us tonight. We work hard, we work together.
Any questions, comments, Bob?
Again, Smith Road's done a great job like the other schools, but I believe this Stan is the last school other than Main Street that has come before us. Am I correct? All the elementaries? About a year and a half ago, Stan Finkel and Donna Norton and Sandy DiBianco and myself were the representatives that went through training looking at this new process. You're the last school that's come before us, where you came in the fall, talked about your goals, your strategies, and then came back and talked about where you're going and what's happened. Personally, I don't know what Sandy thinks about it. I think it's been a great process. I've learned a lot about where schools are going, and I think we can see a common thread, K through 12, in this school district. I know Tony's talked about this. She's getting ready to leave us as a board member. But she's always talked about a common thread, us working for the same target, and I think it's beginning to happen in the school district. So congratulations. And congratulations to Stanford for starting the process. We appreciate it.
And I concur with Bob. Great process. Was one of the best trainings I have been to in 24 years. And I think it's a process that ratifies and continues our desire for shared decision-making and a shared effort across the board, literally and figuratively.
Anything else? Thank you, folks. Thanks a whole bunch.
Thank you.
Okay, participation in government students. I take it this is your last board meeting for the year, so come on up. Any one of us can sign your paperwork.
Thank you.
See, I just have to squint in.
We can't.
Any one of us.
Other than us
Hello,
two.
how are you? Good. Just sign the paper.
Yeah.
Right here, right?
Okay, let me just
Good luck on your finals.
We are not
already started.
July.
Your finals already started?
Good luck.
How you doing? We just tell your mom about this.
I'll see you on Wednesday.
Wednesday. Be there. We'll start early.
Glad you guys came.
Dustin.
Thank you. Good luck.
What's your name?
Sure, you.
Senior?
Anybody else? Hi, how are you? You certainly may. I'll print it first. How's that?
Logan
Read it.
played basketball. Did an awesome job. I went to many games. I want you to beat Utica so bad. I know you did. I know. You guys play, you know, it seemed like you got stronger and stronger as the season went on. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I wrote all this stuff down though. Right. Where am I right here?
College.
Right. This is where I signature. Where do I print? Right here.
Come on down, folks. All of us can sign.
No. Oh my God.
Come on down, folks. All of us can sign.
How you doing?
Tyler.
Thank you.
So getting ready for that big day. How was senior day today? I got a second. You're letting me sign it, right? I missed you yesterday.
So I'll wait this.
Mr. Kevin.
It's all right.
We're not college soccer league, so I have to take Sundays off.
You worked out something. I'm starting at 9. So definitely just turn.
All right.
Take care. Good, you. He works at
Okay.
Subway, and I go there all the time.
Back to business. Thank you. Federal grants presentation. Mr. Bowles.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Keegan on Tuesday of last week said that he wanted to make sure that we looked at all of our federal grants, so it was not a lot.
I didn't want to
lead
give Dan
time.
too much notice.
So we'll get started. The Title I schools that we currently have in the district, there are 5. If you can look over the years, the calculation of the poverty rate based on free and reduced lunch has steadily increased for many of the schools, and it's a little bit of the sign of the times and kind of the economics that are happening. But I do want to clarify one thing. This is a snapshot, and this grant is filed in the end of August. what tends to happen is as students move in and populations change, sometimes these numbers continue to increase. And these numbers also may be different than food service because service does not calculate kindergarten students because they don't eat lunch. So these numbers have a higher overall enrollment. So when you look at food services numbers, they are usually for the elementary schools about 10% higher than these existing numbers. Professional salaries that come out of the Title I grant, between salaries and benefits, you're looking at about $750,000 alone of the overall total. So we do try to make sure that we're using the grant for those purposes so that that is not coming out of the general fund. At Roxborough Elementary, because that does have the highest free and reduced lunch total, there are 2.5 staff at that total. And again, the total is salaries and benefits. So as you look across, and the bottom staffing, we do not put a staff person at either of the parochial schools, but they do have students from our district that we do provide funds for them to provide service to. Next slide is a breakdown of some of the staffing at each of the buildings and the enrollment of students that are being served. And as you see also the far right, we also have ESL students within our district, nowhere near what Syracuse City or some of the other more urban school districts would have for ESL population, but they are also thrown in the mix.
Dan,
Yes, sir.
before we go on, I know I don't like to interrupt.
No.
Again, I know I brought this up last year. 710 students. That's different students. I mean, if they get AIS, math, and reading.
That's a combination
so
of
that's 710 different students
math,
out
ELA.
of a third. It's
Yes.
basically a third of our high school
Would
is
be
receiving
AIS in some
service.
way, shape, or form.
Mind-boggling.
Okay. This, and Sandy, you had asked a question earlier, and this is current Title I set aside. So this past year, we did have to set aside 20%, and we have in the past, of our overall budget
SIS.
for supplemental educational services. 5% of the budget would be for professional development, 1% for parent involvement. However, that ESEA waiver did come out, I believe it was Thursday, and we are taking a look at that, and it will affect what we do for next year, and we will talk about that as well.
Along with that, Dan, we also got some inclination in things that I've read that our funding may be down as well.
Well, I do. I talk about that in the first bullet.
Okay.
We have had a decrease in our enrollment over the past several years, and they have, as our enrollment goes, our Title I funding has gone, and that's kind of been a trend across the county as people have been moving in and out. But what they're funding is going to change. And we're currently, we just received the document on Thursday. I pulled out some of the things that affected Title I, but you will be hearing from Donna Marie Norton as she does the accountability for each of the schools and who will be either a focus or a priority, or if we have schools in that vein at all, because they will be targeting some districts that fall into the bottom 5% within New York State.
But I think I have read that there'll be fewer dollars allotted to the districts, not based on population, but based on the fact that the allotments will be lowered, and that though we don't have to set aside that 20%, we're still
They may
going
not give us the allocation as
Right.
they have. They have talked also about any school improvement funds as well and lowering those dollar amounts, because we've already seen that. And depending on who they decide are going to meet a priority or focus school, those dollars probably will be a lot lower. But some of the assumptions that we may have fewer dollars based on our enrollment. Title I funds used to support school improvement, intervention strategies, and professional development. Funds will need to be allocated to address students needing RTI services. And again, Title I funding will allow for more flexibility for existing set-asides. What we were just talking about was that ESEA waiver that allows for some changes. Because of that, I had to kind of quickly put it together a new slide. And 20% set aside no longer required, and we do not have to do supplemental educational services. We can if we choose to, and that it throws that option in there, but we do not have to. We do have to continue to offer school choice for Title I schools who fall into either a priority or focus school, and we will know that based on accountability and once we get information. For identified schools, prior it was 1% that we had to allocate for parent involvement. Now they are upping that to 2%.
Dan, the supplemental, not everybody took advantage of that opportunity while we had it, correct?
That is correct.
And unfortunately, because of the regulations, some people who could have benefited from it could not avail themselves of it unless they were in the target group. So you could have a kid with a high income, you know, if it were students of color, who could get the, you know, the funding, and you could have a child in a low income who had need could not avail themselves of those services, and it just was.
I was usually seated with people at open house while the supplemental services were trying to, you know, let people know the information, and 9 times out of 10 they weren't eligible. Even if they were interested, even if they needed it, they weren't eligible. It was very frustrating for all the parties concerned. So
the one thing that waiver is going to do is they are going to reassess all of these institutions that are providing supplemental educational service. Basically, they'll need to reapply to see, are they meeting their goals, and see if they are truly doing what they're saying they're doing.
And that was the other concern that we had, was that the quality of these organizations is diverse and widely divergent. I mean, you have some that are excellent and some that I wouldn't allow my dog to go to see.
Sure.
But they were all treated the same, and we were not allowed to do anything to determine or assess the quality. If they came to the table, we had to accept them.
You did hear from Jeanette in talking about before-school programs and some of the things that they do there. Supplemental educational services, again, we will be taking off the list, and we will not be looking to get involved in that. We've had extensive staff development. ELA Common Core has been a huge focus. Learning-focused classrooms, curriculum mapping, and leading groups, and New York State scoring have all been kind of evolving, and especially the New York State scoring this year, we had to switch to a regional scoring, and we were paired up with Lafayette, Tully, and Fabius Pompey, and we did that all here, which added an increased layer to the complexity of scoring and the quality control for all those teachers out there that did partake. Again, thank them, because when you talk about rigorous work and trying to make sure that you're staying on top of things so that it benefits the students, they did a phenomenal job. Some of the additional grants that we will have to look at is the Title II-A, which is preparing, training, and recruiting high-quality teacher and principals. In our North Syracuse, that all teachers need to be highly qualified, because Annette Speech keeps a tight rein on that, and we won't look at people unless they fall into that highly qualified range. Professional development must be provided, and also we look to make sure that the required hours for professional development are being calculated and tabulated for all of our staff. Title II-A grant pays for the salaries and benefits for 3 literacy and math staff developers for the tune of $263,000. So that money for does not come out of our general fund. It is fully paid for from the grant. We also provide universal pre-K, and we kind of subcontract for that service. The grant is provided to the school district, and then we send out RFPs for places such as Learn as You Grow, Northminster, Head Start, and they provide the service. And that grant allocation has remained fixed for the last 4 years at $606,000, and it services 232 children. We are currently still doing some registration tonight at the junior high school because we usually would be over here, but we knew we'd have a packed house. So in summary, the Title I grant total is up there, and Title IIA, Universal Pre-K, for an overall total of $1,966,348.
Jeez, you just scared me.
Sorry about that.
So intent on the... Any questions? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Bowles.
much.
Didn't work as well as I thought.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, food service budget presentation. Louise with her flower. It's kind of bittersweet, I gotta say.
Well, good evening. I'm joined tonight by Louise D'Angelo, our current food service director, and as Tony pointed out, who's wearing a flower because this is her last board presentation. She's retiring this month, and you'll see from the numbers here she's had a big job managing our food service operation, has done an excellent job, and will be terribly missed. I'm also with Wendy Swift, who will be taking Louise's place starting July 1st, and so we thought it'd be a nice idea to do this presentation together so that you could hear from all of us. So we talked a little bit about the mission of food service, and Louise and Wendy put this together. And we talked about it, and we think this succinctly describes what our mission is. The North Syracuse Central School District Food Service Department is committed to providing nutritious, delicious, and safe food to the students, faculty, and staff of the North Syracuse Central School District in order to help them meet their mission of achieving success through schoolwork, preparing students for lifelong learning. And the second part of that, obviously, is right from the mission statement here at North Syracuse. So we've been looking at the food service operation, and there's so many things that are going right there in terms of the operational excellence of the group, the quality of the employees, the compliance with laws, obviously achieving the mission of providing safe food. But there are some economic factors that we wanted to bring to the attention of the board and to talk about. The first is that over the last couple of years, the food service operation has been losing money. One of the big reasons is that meal participation and a la carte sales are declining at double the rate of the enrollment decline. So why is that? The first reason we think is that the economic recession has reduced families' ability to participate in the program. And second, the new nutritional standards have made the food less appealing to our students. As I've said, that's another way of saying whole wheat pizza crust.
They won't eat it.
The second factor kind of that's affecting our economics are that meal prices are low relative to our costs. And if you look at our labor costs are about $1.68 a meal. Our 2010-11 costs were $1.9 million to provide about 1,150,000 meals. And one of the reasons our labor cost is high is that our hourly rates are relatively high for the area. They're on the higher end. And again, I want to reiterate what I said earlier. We have excellent employees, and I'm not implying at all that they're not worth what they're paid. We just happen, as a larger school, more mature system, I think we're at a little on the higher end. The retirement health insurance costs, as we heard all through the budget cycle, have been a burden not only on the general fund but on the food service organization as well. food commodity prices have increased on average about 4%. And the new menu standards have and will continue to increase meal costs because we're inserting more expensive food into the menu. This chart kind of highlights some of the menu changes. You can look at the 07-08 year. You can see the number of meals served and the revenue versus expense. So in that year, our revenues actually exceeded our expenses by $109,000. In that year, we implemented whole wheat sliced bread, multigrain dinner rolls, reduced sugar cereals only were served, and we eliminated the double cheeseburger. Big loss for the food service program. The ERS contributions then were 9.3%, and health insurance was $400,000. We can scan through, and you can see. I'll just highlight the first 3 years we were profitable, but we continue to implement the menu changes that are required by law. You know, whole wheat stuffed crust pizza, whole wheat breaded chicken patties, whole wheat burger and hot dog buns, brown rice, and eliminated ranch dressing and barbecue sauce. What that really was it used to be unlimited quantities of that, and now we're more conscious of the amount of those condiments that are available to the kids. You can see in the 10-11 year we lost money. That was last year. And in the current year we're projected to lose about $161,000. Notice the health insurance costs went from about $400,000 to about a little over $500,000 over that 5-year period, or about a 25% increase. You know, again, this is just indicative of the economy we're in right now, and that's a trend that we experience at the general fund, that all businesses are experiencing. But nonetheless, given the slow rate of increase in our meal prices in conjunction with increases in food cost, it's pushed us to an unprofitable situation. Louise?
So this year we estimate that our total breakfast and lunch meals will be 68,000 less meals than last year. I'm finding that every week, you can go to the next one, a la carte sales also is decreased about 8,000. When what we're finding, my cook managers and myself are getting phone calls every week telling us of their dilemma and that they want their money put into lunch meals only. They want credit limits capped. They want their student only having a meal. And we find that you know, our a la carte sales used to subsidize our meal program, and not having those revenues are really hurting. So this year, revenues versus expenditures, we should be 161,000 shy. This chart shows you our kitchen labor survey. So I surveyed the neighboring districts, and we have 56 food service helper positions at $12.64 an hour, and that is the second highest. Liverpool tops us at $14.29, but otherwise everyone else is starting their food service helpers at a lower rate than we do. Many other districts, 4 other districts, have food service helper twos who are able to cook food, but we do not have any of those positions. We instead employ actual cooks, and those cooks start at $16.23, where that's the highest that cooks are paid in the area. And we have the most cook managers also. Cook managers either manage a large building or a number of elementaries, and there again they get paid $19.83 an hour, which is the highest in the area. So our new nutrition guidelines for 2012-13, Wendy and I just went to a state ed presentation today, and they just informed us of what we are going to have to meet as of July 1st. And up to this point, I've been analyzing our menus, and as long as our protein requirements met the weekly regulations, which enabled me to put less than 2 ounces of protein into each entree, we complied. So we were able to have pizza with 1.5 ounces of cheese. We were able to have a number of, entrees, and still met the protein requirement for the week. Now with the new guidelines, it's more certain amount of protein. They'll be requiring us to have 2 ounces of protein in most meals. And so we will increase our food costs next year, meeting these new guidelines. Next year, all students must take a fruit or vegetable. At this time, they have to take an entree and 2 to 4 sides, so they could take a dessert component or a bread component and a milk and meet their regulations. Next year, they're going to have to take a fruit or vegetable, and many students don't particularly care for fruits and vegetables, so this will be a concern for us.
Be in the garbage.
And breakfast entrees will eventually have to be larger than we're serving also now. So breakfast will be increasing the food cost of breakfast also.
Hi. Basically what happened is the federal government went to a number of school districts throughout the United States recently and basically did an audit of their meal prices and looked at their free and reduced numbers. And what they found was that the free and reduced students were actually subsidizing these school lunch programs because we weren't charging enough for paid lunches. So they came up with a formula and decided that we all have to increase lunch prices. And what they actually came up with was they looked at the free reimbursement rate, which is the $277, and they looked at paid reimbursement rates of 26 cents, and they felt that paid students need to pay the difference, which is $2.51. Now, they don't expect us to get to that point overnight. They realize that some of us are under $2, and we need to take our time getting there. These families, can't jump 50 cents or more in a year, so they are giving us a time frame to meet this difference. However, our reimbursement rates change every single year, so we're always going to be chasing this number. But we do need to, it is mandatory, we do need to increase our lunch prices next year. We are looking at, based on the increased food costs, of increasing breakfast and lunch 10 cents. As you can see by this slide, this breaks down the meal prices for the last few years, and your elementaries, middle school, and high school for a number of years kept the same price of $1.50, $1.75, and $2. Last year, you guys made an increase of a quarter, and again, we're looking at 10 cents for next year. Same for breakfast. Breakfast stayed fairly steady at $1 for a number of years, and then we moved up to $1.25, and we'll be looking at the 10-cent increase, raising all breakfast to $1.35.
So what do we? I want to go back and just reiterate that our team has done a great job in terms of the people, and we've, despite the the kind of the labor costs, what we've really asked our food service workers to work extremely hard, because we've taken labor out of the kitchen to try to get our costs in line. The changes we made, new strategies that we've implemented recently, in order to to right the ship, so to speak, and get our food service operation at break even. The first thing we did was we decreased food service office labor costs with the elimination of the assistant manager, and as well as bringing in Wendy as a BOCES manager. The second thing we're doing is we're exploring the possibility of increasing the free and reduced breakfast sales. We have a significant population at all of our schools, particularly the junior high and high school, that are entitled to a free or reduced breakfast that are not taking advantage of it. And to put it in perspective, in the high school, there are over 450 kids entitled to a free or reduced breakfast that are not partaking in that. So we're brainstorming, and one of the ideas we have is the possibility of having these breakfast carts with wireless registers where kids can come in and just grab a lunch, key their number, and go to their classroom. And whether they can, obviously everybody can partake in that, but we think it'll get the free and reduced population to, most importantly, eat the food they need so that they're well nourished, so that they can learn. And that's really the objective, is to provide the kids with the nutrition that they need to be successful. And so that's something we're exploring and we're going to be talking more about. The other is that we think, as part of Many schools do this. They have a volunteer program, and we'd like to talk to you folks about this, having our students wash tables. What it does is it...
He doesn't know the history.
But there is a history here.
Oh, yeah, no, I know the history. I know it's very controversial. I still think it's a great idea, though.
Well, I thought it was good.
Well, I mean, I wash tables.
Yeah, and our kids in Marcellus wash tables
When
every
I was
day.
a child, and our parents objected.
Well, that's why I said volunteer. And what we would do is we would create a program run by the food service department that would basically solicit volunteers, that we'd work with the custodial staff to provide the supplies, and we would, periodically give the kids ice cream coupons to reward them for providing that service. And we tie it into some type of character education thing. We want to work with principals and whatnot. And so we'll be pitching this idea to our elementary principals at an upcoming meeting and brainstorming with them. And we've asked around quite a bit, and it seems to be a program that works in many schools, and we'd like to at least try it.
I was shocked that we had the amount of hoopla over that we did, because, as I said, I grew up doing that, and my kids, they wanted to wash the blackboard, they wanted to wash the table.
It's funny, the idea came up. Louise said, hey, I got a great idea before I retire. Get the kids to wash the tables.
Were you here when, Louise, were you here when the problem happened? So you know what it's about, right?
I have a question. Has there ever been given any thought, junior and senior high school kids, generally speaking, don't necessarily eat breakfast first thing in the morning, but they eat their first meal as early as 10:30 in the morning.
Right.
And then by 2, they've gone almost 4 hours, 3.5 hours without eating. Is it possible that we flip it a little bit and maybe offer a snack on their way out the door?
Well, one of the things that's neat about the way our food service operation, they offer a lot of packaged, healthy food that we could sell them kind of on the way in, and particularly that free and reduced population that they're teenagers, they don't want to eat early in the morning, and they can't afford to eat.
But they're not even thinking about it till
take
lunch.
Right, but they could be taking it with them, throw it in their backpack, and eat it at third period or fourth period. So
that's when they're eating lunch.
Yeah, and that's right. Well, and so maybe, I don't know, we were thinking if they had packaged food, they could eat it when they wanted to.
Yeah,
as opposed to something cooked.
but so by the time their brain wakes up and they realize they're hungry, it's lunchtime. So then if we maybe offered a snack, because some kids aren't going home right after school or whatever, and they could go hours after 10:30 before they have any shot at having something else to eat again. So it's just something to think about, maybe doing that same concept on the go in a package in the afternoon as opposed to in the morning.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Tony knows, because the hordes of children that go over to the canteen are ravenous. And I remember my kids used to launch themselves off the bus like they had been on the Negev for the day.
That and the bathroom are the two things that are their key component, eating and drinking.
Yeah, other school districts, I believe Central Square offers like a box lunch for athletes going to away games, and they won't have a meal until they come back, or for a lot of after-school programs. So that's definitely a place for us to grow.
Thank you.
So I think we have a challenging financial situation. We've got nutrition standards changing. But at the end of the day, we've got to find a way to make sure that our kids are nourished and ready to learn. And truthfully, we also want to recognize that we also have an obesity issue in America. And so there's a lot of moving pieces here, and there's probably not one silver bullet that fixes this problem. But we're confident if we brainstorm with our teachers and our administrators, we'll figure out where the specific needs are, and we're willing to kind of customize solutions that work best for the different schools at the different age groups and the different cultures. The purpose of this last slide is to say that we have a fund balance in food service. It's been diminished a little bit, but it'll give us, I think, the time we need to kind of hone our formula so that we can, in fact, get the program back on track. Remember, when the food service program loses money, if it doesn't have fund balance, it looks to the general fund to make up the difference, and that really hurts the instructional program. So it's absolutely essential that the food service program be able to keep its head above water and financially support itself. Do you have any questions?
I want to make a comment. Louise, thank you for everything you did. I remember you came into my classroom. I asked you to come in, speak about nutrition, but you've made your organization very professional. You know, it's the bus drivers in the morning, but at lunchtime, it's the cafeteria workers who have the smile, and you made that whole staff very professional. I saw a change in staff in your distance here. And I also welcome Wendy. We're looking forward to work with you. But I can tell you personally, Dan was correct. And I happened to go talk to, was it food service I talked? No, it was the bus driver. No, food service I talked to one year. I went to speak to them. And I shared with them the poverty rates or through food service. And it is 10 points. And to increase the lunch prices, yes, you're, over 1 year it's a dime, but 2 years it's 35 cents. That's a 23% increase if my math is correct. That's a lot of money to ask. And I, at this time, cannot vote on this if it comes back to the board. Just to let you know, we have a lot of kids in need in this district, a lot of parents that are out of work. And I know there's ways of them getting funding for it, but I cannot 2 years in a row. Maybe next year, but at this time, I ask you to go and look for some other solutions of working on it other than increasing especially at the elementary level.
I think they have a choice,
Bob, they don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice.
There's no choice. They're mandated to do this.
There's a minimum of 5 cents, though.
Right.
I mean, we can.
Right.
So no matter what, we do have to increase lunch.
Okay.
What the federal
Apologize.
government is saying is that we should be charging over $2.50.
Right, and there has to be.
I think Bob is a good point, though. The only thing I think that mitigates it is that that population is entitled to a free or reduced lunch. And I think where we're missing the boat is that we've got a lot of free and reduced people that aren't eating the lunch. And so, you know, I agree that we have to meet their needs, but somehow we got to get that meal, that food to them so that they can be nourished, and it's free. It's basically a free meal for them.
But also, when you get to a certain price point and the kids are not all that thrilled with what they're being served because they don't like the choices that they are being forced to make, then they prevail on their parents not to buy lunch, to bring their white bread or, you know,
The ranch.
or their roll or their ranch salad to school. You know, it's a cost benefit, and I understand the necessity of doing this, and I am one of the obese, so, you know, I understand, you know, all those issues, but I think that it's difficult to legislate.
Well, you know, I really hope that this district can maybe embrace team effort and education, because I have seen at Bear Road Elementary when they fueled up to play 60, and they incorporated the education with the students and the food service department. What they did was put little award symbols on the good choices and would talk about eating fresh fruit. So the gym teacher, the phys ed teacher, in coordination with my efforts, said, well, is fresh fruit available at breakfast? And I said, yes, I've introduced it 3 years ago, but because no one takes it, we put out a little basket of 12 items, and, you know, 2 people take it, and we bring them back and put it back. Well, she educated them, and we went through hundreds of pieces of fresh fruit because it was talked about, because when they passed by that, she goes, well, put it out there and I will get them to take it. So, you know, put it out and they will come, and it happened. And I know with my own children, you know, when I would give them an analysis, if, you know, I showed them that they had high sodium, my daughter asked, well, why is that? And I said, well, look, at every time you had Kraft macaroni and cheese, it went way up. That made her sickened that she could never have that again, because, you know, education and you know, what you choose is hand in hand. So, I know that we had issues with condiments at the high school a few years ago because we put hot sauce and ranch dressing on everything. But, populations can, and I think with everyone's help, educating that what proper eating is, that we can change people's perception and choices.
I just want to see, as you say, at Bear Road, they did this. It kills me. So many times we see whole pieces of fruit in the trash, and even if we could educate the kids, if you don't want it, leave it so that someone else can eat it. I know at Lakeshore at one point in time they had an initiative.
The Throw does that.
Yeah.
They do not throw it out. They have a table.
Right. If the new state mandate is that every child has to take it, then that takes it out of their hands again.
At Lakeshore they do that too, Bob. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just one final thing. I think
Yeah.
our challenge is to make the meals and the offerings attractive enough to kids. And to Louise's point, we've got to educate them and motivate them to take the food that's healthy for them so that they can be nourished. So thank you.
Thank you.
Louise.
Okay, the next portion of our agenda is, I have one person signed up to speak, and I just wanted to remind everybody out in the audience, in the world out there, that the process, the way this works, is that the one speaker that we have will come up, they will speak, and we as a board do not respond. I think some of the emails we've been getting in recent weeks, people don't get the gist of how this works. It's just a listening thing. So we just listen. We're not going to respond. It's very much an informational thing. So if kids come in, even during budget process or any other process during the course of the year, when it comes time to the public speaking session, it's not a give and take. It's one presentation, one speaker, and we don't respond. So, John Carilla, thank you.
Good evening. I want to take a moment before I get going just to really share how impressed I am with 3rd and 4th grade wisdom. That the Smith Road component that they put up there was outstanding. I really enjoy the candor of kids and how quickly things come out, and it gives us a burst of reality. That being said, this is a message addressed specifically to the board. If we had our way, we would be lucky enough to live on the brink our entire life. That great sense of expectation and excitement without the disappointment. That would be the perfect state. Sadly, things have not worked out that way. It must first be said that the NSCA fully comprehends the gravity of our action, speaking to the board publicly, as well as providing written notice to each board member. We remain patient, affording every professional courtesy to the superintendent, allowing her to learn about North Syracuse, invest in our students, staff, and community. We have reached that pivotal moment when decisive action by the board, NSCA, and community is necessary. Dr. Dice entered our district 11 months ago. She has been provided the trust and respect deserving of superintendent and educational leader. Her presentation in September, powerful and hopeful, resonated with staff, drawing all to our feet in ovation. The path was illuminated. The district was unanimous in its movement toward an improved, more effective, and efficient North Syracuse. Several events over the year have left many to question the competence of Dr. Dice. The superintendent has offended many, professionally and personally, through her words and actions, effectively creating a maelstrom of distrust and dismay. The promise of transparency and shared decision-making has been at best uneven or absent. Dr. Dice's actions have divided our staff, our buildings, and marginalized our greatest asset, our human capital. Dr. Dice's continued sense of entitlement as well as apathy towards concerns regarding her leadership have caused this course of action, as well as a sense of rage among a large proportion of our staff. We are gravely concerned about our shared future should no intervention occur. Each of you has been provided an envelope containing detailed information to evidence these collective statements. Our hope is that through continued collaborative effort and discussion, we fix what has been damaged, as well as relight the expectation and excitement of our shared journey. Secondarily, we were recently made aware the board was asked to consider a vote on salary increases for several district-level administrators. This is considered to be a slap in the face to our community who supported our budget on the basis of providing sound programming to our children. This is a slap in the face to the 600 NSEA members who agreed to a salary freeze to support the desperate financial circumstances of our district. The number of people in attendance tonight should be a clear expression of the anger felt over such a proposal. We all have a larger job to do without increased compensation. We all have been asked by the superintendent, what would we give up in order to add something else? We feel the district has given up on its teachers, TAs, and support personnel. It is unjustifiable and reprehensible to propose raises for any staff member at this juncture. I urge the board to uphold the promises made to the community and vote unanimously no to the proposed salary increase whenever that vote returns to this body. We thank you for your time.
Thank you. Board committee reports or comments?
Just a comment that on Wednesday evening at Siena High School, 139 seniors will be receiving scholarships to go on to college, over $75,000. I know Dr. Dyson will be speaking along with somebody from the high school and Pat Carbone. I ask you to get there early because the program is going to start early. Anywhere between 10 out and 5, but we need to start a little bit earlier than 7. So we're looking forward to having everybody there.
I'd like to comment on the retiree reception that we just had prior to this meeting, and it really was interesting to sit in the back and listen to all of the years of experience that we're going to be losing in this district. It's I used the term before, but it is definitely bittersweet. Some of those folks I've known, Dr. Morton and I go way back. I would not be sitting in this seat right here tonight if it wasn't for Dr. Morton and Marlene Higginbotham. And honestly, it's tough. I'm happy for them. I'm very happy for them, but it's tough as a district to lose that kind of experience and that kind of leadership that we had, and they will be sorely missed, all of them. Anyone else?
Just again want to comment on tonight. A lot of old friends, to see the Bear Road crew, my right and left hand women retiring now. Those of you who know that I had kids who rose up in the district, and when I went to part-time work, I volunteered and became active with the PTOs, and Mary Simmons, who it's the last of the Mohegans, for me. But it was wonderful people, Marlene, an institution, and she's leaving us with a legacy not only of all the kids whose lives she touched, but of her children. And we feel very blessed about that.
I thought they were all 22 with me. Yes, yes.
First of all, I'd like to request that we have a presentation of the vote survey results. This is something that we've done in the district for years, and I know we have gotten copies, but it usually is also a presentation at a board meeting. The next thing is I want to discuss is the presentation of the early literacy volunteer program.
Oh, the elves?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just thought that they might be something that we could honor some Monday night at a meeting.
I think think we
I know there's
honored Gloria at one point.
The foundation honored her.
We did have one. So
Yep.
maybe I would like to have it again. I can have just copies of what was already done. I'm just interested in knowing what the results are of the kindergarten children who have this program in their schools with the schools that aren't participating.
And one more will be next year. So.
That's great. That's great. Another thing I need to talk about is alcoholic beverages at school functions. I guess I'm getting a little appalled about it. I make it quite obvious. You can't be sitting at the table taking reservations with a beer bottle. I won't stand for it. If the organizations feel that they have to go to a restaurant and cannot contain themselves to drink alcohol that night with their kids, then I think we need to direct everybody to eat at school, have their banquets at school, have their functions at school, and this won't happen. I don't like to do this to our tax-paying restaurants, but if somebody shows up at the bar and want to buy a beer, they don't have an idea where they're from. I mean, there is Karen Siemens from Cicero Elementary. She had an event there, and she did make the most elaborate posters that she put on all doors, that it was a school function, no alcohol was to be consumed. And I don't know why everybody can't do that. I'm just appalled. I mean, it happened at the last banquet I was at twice, and I just can't deal with it. So I need that taken care of if I could get somebody to help me there. And I know that Don and I talked today about the fences being locked at Gillette Road Middle School complex. I don't think you realize this, but we were at a softball game for the girls, championship game. And we're all sitting there watching the game, and all of a sudden I see these bunch of people come in with dog dishes and food and water. And I'm looking, I'm going, where are they going? They opened up the gate in the field we weren't playing on, put the dogs in there, sat on the fence, had their water, and used it as a play yard and a playpen. And that appalls me to no end. My kids are playing ball on their field, and the dogs are in there playing in the playpen. All I'm asking is for the gate to be locked. Yes, they can get in the field. They can have to go around the edge of it to get in by the dugouts. Well, then that's what they're going to have to do. But how could you do that with all these people standing around watching the game, and you're doing, if they have no shame, I have shame. I just cannot believe that we can't put locks on the gates.
Do we have signs up that say no pets?
You can bring your pet. They let you bring the pet. That's not a problem. But when you're using it as a playpen and you're sitting by the gate with 4 other people having a conversation and the dogs are doing whatever, it's not right. And they're 2 big dogs. Obviously, they had planned on staying there for a while. I called Tom screaming. And of course, he was at CNS with another event going on. He couldn't get to Gillette. By the time he got to Gillette, they had left. It's just a concern that it bothers me a lot. All right, and I think I also spoke to you about this, Don, today, the RFP for attorney services. Mr. Blue told me that it was going to be up this spring, and I just assumed that he had told you and it was being done, but obviously not. And I also asked you if there was some kind of a service that we could go through BOCES using a COSER, if that might help. I don't know if that's possible. I know you will. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Dr. Dice?
I just want to highlight a couple of things. Last week I had the opportunity to go to Gillette and hang out for the USA Military Day, and it was an amazing event. As I indicated to Elaine and Diane and Barb, that being here in North Syracuse, there have been a number of first-time events that I think are just so amazing to North Syracuse. So USA Day, I think is one of them. The Special Olympics is another, and there are many more. But it was just great to be able to walk around the room and meet many of our heroes, and to just see all of the things that they had brought to share with our students and our families. And so thank you to that committee for putting on an amazing event, as well as the choir that sang. I also had the opportunity to go to Allen Road, and Mr. Saylor asked me if I would participate, hang out with him in his phys ed class. Of course, I did not know until I got there that they were playing kickball out all the way at the other end of the field. And on that day, I happened to be in a red dress with red pumps. But it was, I had a ball. I took off my shoes, put them on the bench, and had the opportunity to go outside and play kickball with the students. And I, of course, was the pitcher. I didn't do too bad, actually. Of course, I can tell you that when I walked in, it was hilarious because I had to pass all of the classrooms, and I know everyone on the side was wondering, what is she doing walking out there barefoot, but they soon found out. As well as the week before, I had the opportunity to visit Cicero when they were doing their fundraiser for cancer. And on that day, of course, I need to start having sweats and sneakers in my car, because on that day, I didn't have my sneakers, but I walked around the track with the students.
At the diabetes walk?
Yes, diabetes walk, right.
Yes.
And but I had my pumps on, and everyone was like, "You are not walking that track with pumps on." I said, "Sure, why not?" But then what was even funner was the fact that the students wanted to dance, and they were playing all kinds of music. So of course I had to chime in and dance with the elementary kids, as well as the high schoolers who happened to walk over to hang out with the elementary students. Then also I attended the lacrosse banquet, and what was really cool about the banquet, above and beyond hanging out with parents who were just reminiscing over the fact that their seniors were graduating, was the fact that it really was truly a family affair. To hear Coach Aldrich and his team talk about the students and the way they did. It wasn't just calling out their names, but it was joking about certain characteristics or certain skills or just their commitment to the sport. And just to see the fact that those students, you could just see it in their face how much they, one, loved playing lacrosse, but two, that they really enjoyed being a part of that team was pretty cool. And then last but not least, I had the opportunity to visit North Syracuse Baptist Church, which I enjoyed the service immensely. There was a guest speaker, Dr. David Anderson, and for anyone who's a parishioner there, I wanted to at least thank Dr. Miller and the parishioners for just a warm welcome. It was a great service. Both Gianna and I did enjoy it, and I look forward to visiting again. Thank you.
Okay, routine action items. Can I have
Motion to take them as a group.
to take them as a group? Sandy first, Michael second. Any questions? Okay, as they migrate out, the resolution is to take A, B, C, and D as submitted. All in favor? That's unanimous. Create a .2 family and consumer science. Annette.
Yes, we've analyzed staffing needs and class size for the family and consumer science classes at the high school, and we were slightly off. We're asking that the board create a .2, which will be attached actually to an existing .9, so we'll end up with a probationary position and then a little part-time .1, and the probationary position will be added to big board.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Need to vote on that? Yes? Do I have a second or a first?
First.
Favor? Recommendation to create a temporary typist 1?
Yes, we do this every year at this time. We come to the board and ask to create a temporary typist 1 to help out at food service for a period of time from late August through the fall. And it really is to help get the free and reduced lunch applications up and running.
Anybody have any questions? Do I have a motion? You two are like the Bobsey twins over there.
Well, there's not too many of us here tonight.
First Sandy, second Michael. All in favor? Wait, go ahead, Catherine.
Expecting a free, free or reduced meal.
I understand that.
No, Wendy's
Is
been
that what she
involved.
wants to do? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I'm
in
sorry, I
other
didn't
words,
understand the
The
question.
other secretary is still saying, we're not getting.
No,
No.
we do this every year.
Right.
Yeah.
We've done the same position every
Kids
year.
bring in.
Yes.
Honey, things change around here so fast I can't keep.
She's in support of it.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'm all right.
All right, are we good now? All right. Everybody in favor? Yep. Yes? Okay, that's unanimous. All right. Organizational meeting date. Catherine, you have a question before we move on? Okay.
I was under the assumption that we did.
No.
To establish an organizational. And you're doing, the others are just the dates, you're not voting on those. Those are just for an FYI for when the board approves the final ones in July. Yes.
Yeah.
First and third Mondays of the month.
So if
Your idea, okay.
and the purpose of tonight is just for the July 9th meeting.
Yes.
Do I have a motion? All right, let's switch it up a
All
little.
right, we'll
First
start. Come on,
Michael,
Kate.
second
Let's
Sandy.
Come on.
Okay. It is recommended that the Board of Education hold its annual organizational meeting on July 9th, 2012. All in favor? Yes, unanimous. Universal pre-K contract.
As Dan Bowles mentioned, this is we have not had an increase in funding in a number of years. Last year, Dan and Wayne went through a process and assigned to Learn As You Grow, Northminster, and Head Start the 5-year contracts that went out. They went out to a bidding process, and all we're doing is re-upping with those same providers, same number of students, same dollar amounts. And we're asking them to sign an agreement just saying that they are maintaining the same level of standards they committed to in the bid, giving us a renewed insurance certificate and some basic administrative things. So it's the same deal as we had for the 11-12 school year.
Anybody have any
Make the
questions? Okay. Well, hold on.
We got
Catherine's got
questions?
some questions first. Yeah.
I was. I want to know who is monitoring the part of the program, weekly, monthly.
Dan. Catherine has a question.
Excuse me, I'm looking at Donna.
Don and I have made visits, at least 2 visits to all 3. About every 2 months, we've gone to the programs, we've had discussions, we've gone into the classroom, we've monitored the curriculum, and also looked at the enrollment of the students. Excuse me. And we're trying to make sure that we have continued contact with them. Pretty much it has been every 2.5 months where we've been in all of the programs and had discussions in regard to what's working and what we can do on our end to improve the program. And I think, Bob, you had mentioned earlier in the year, and I had met with some kindergarten teachers, and some of the kindergarten teachers have seen the program, but I think I want to have a wider discussion. And the wider discussion is what are both groups in need of, and making sure that they're aligned together as far as what we can tell the preschool programs what we need to see when those kids are entering kindergarten and what type of information we can convey to them to make that happen. And I was just meeting with the kindergarten teachers, I think it was last Thursday, and having that discussion, and we're trying to see how they want to do it. Do they want to either have the pre-K people come to them? Do they want to go to each pre-K program? But I'm trying to see, should I divide it up instead of having that many people out at one time? But we did have that discussion the other day.
Okay, do I have a motion? Bob, second. Sandy? Are we good? Okay, all in favor? That's unanimous. You are. We're doing good. We're doing good. Okay. Acknowledgement of the textbook list, which is quite extensive. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Recommended action is to approve the textbook list. Okay, I'm going to go first Sandy, a second Bob, sorry Mike. All in favor? Okay, we're good. Acknowledgement of gifts. Mrs. Ellen Lapierre donated the following items to Roxborough Road Middle School. One Technique FXKN 3000 keyboard with a stand and an adapter. DVDs, Learning to Play Keyboard. 32 variety of music books, mainly EZ Play music books. Recommended action is to accept with gratitude the gift of the keyboard with the stand, the adapter, the DVDs, the music books to the Roxborough Road Middle School. Again, if it wasn't for these gifts and people donating stuff, a lot of times our budget can't cover this kind of stuff, so we truly appreciate these types of gifts. Do I have a motion to accept the gift? You just have a question? Okay, go ahead.
There was no monetary value.
Does anybody know the monetary value? Okay. Do I have a motion? Okay. First Sandy, second Mike. All in favor?
We're just paying attention.
Thank you, guys. Oh, that's unanimous. Okay, policies.
Can we take?
Does anybody have any questions or, okay. Catherine, go ahead.
I really don't want to do. I know this is a contingency year, so. Okay.
Okay.
But on a weekday. The figure it now. Okay, so. Our Syracuse kids, and I.
You're talking about this year?
No, this is a contingency
Oh.
year. No, they're even getting.
Okay, so for future reference, the recommendation, whether we choose to or not, the recommendation from Catherine is that we don't charge BOCES when they need to use our facilities.
It's just a one-day a year, and it's just for the award.
So maybe we can discuss that at a later date?
And maybe,
well, it's,
could this be like a quid pro quo, Don, could this be like a quid pro quo thing?
Well, it
with-
would be for June of 13.
Right,
13,
For
correct.
13,
Yeah.
so we probably have some.
This year, they
No, I understand that. But for next year that we, you know,
The only concern I have is that is exempting one organization and creating a little, like, we tried really hard with this policy to exempt our PTOs and PTGs and related organizations. Kay brings out a very good point. There's a lot of our kids, but I think maybe during the next 12 months, we're going to take a look at that facilities use policy and some of the strategies and the fees. And so I suspect before the next BOCES meeting, we'll be coming back and having a conversation with the board and take that up at that time.
Yeah, because like after-school programs like the Y and rec programs and all, they're
But
all
they're all
our
paying.
kids,
The towns
and
are
they're all
paying,
paying.
yeah.
We used to have facilities rental policies. Remember BOCES would rent certain of our facilities
still
and
do.
vice versa. We still do. But is there some way that this one night could be rolled into
Always a way. It's
Into
always a
that.
way.
So this is a discussion for a future,
Look at it and come back to the board with it.
okay, yes. Okay.
That's for scholars.
So let's go back to the policy,
That's what you're
the
gonna
policy portion. Okay. So does anybody have any questions? Okay. The recommended action, boy, this is going to be a long one, okay, is to amend and readopt policy 1500, 5410, 8411.1. That's an H. How about if we back up one, and can I take H and I together as a group? Will somebody make a motion? Sandy. Second. Mike. All in favor? Okay, so back to amendment and readoption of policy 1500, 5140, 8411.1, and readoption of policy 8800. Favor? No, we were taking them as a group, and now we're doing, yeah. Okay, are we good, Connie? Okay. Do we need an executive session before we take up A and B? We do not have a C for some reason.
Get away with C.
Right, okay. All right, so, does anybody have any questions about A or B? Okay. Do I have a motion to take A and B as a group? Bob and Mike. Favor? The recommended action is to approve A and B as submitted. Yeah. Catherine has a question before we vote. Okay. A and B as a group, we passed them all? We good?
Yep.
Okay. I don't believe we have any retirements before us this evening. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of receiving an update on negotiations with 5 district bargaining units and to review the employment record of 5 individuals with no action to follow. Somebody? Michael? All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. We are adjourned. Good night, everyone. Thank you.